Chapter 20 Reduce. My brother Art and his wife Yumiko practice osoji, or big cleaning, every year. Yumiko describes its long history. Osoji is something many Japanese do at the end of each year. At least my family has done it since I was a child. My mother and both of my two sisters still clean their respective houses every year. I was told that we were to clean to face a new year with a fresh and clean feeling, without the old dirt from the passing year. In my family, we received gifts of new socks, new underwear, and new toothbrushes on New Year's morning to start another year anew. I always thought the driving force behind this annual ritual might be the tight quarters and limited space in many apartments in Tokyo. But the annual spring tradition in Japan began with Buddhist temples and Shinto shrines, which practice the centuries-old tradition of cleaning the soot off their buildings. In addition to regular hygiene, these cleanings are religious ritual symbolizing prayer for good harvests and proper hygiene. In recent years here in America, there has been a rising interest in simplifying, minimizing, and pruning various aspects of our lives. We see this in the popularity of tidying up gurus like Marie Kondo. The minimalists, two young hipster gentlemen who left their six-figure corporate jobs to embrace a life of less, started a movement around simplification. The FIRE crowd, financially independent, retire early, has also emerged, led by the advocate of living with less, Mr. Money Mustache, whose real name is Pete Adonay. Vicki Robin recently revised and reissued her 1990s bestseller, Your Money or Your Life, co-authored with the late Joe Dominguez, to a new generation in search of an alternative to the more is better emphasis in American society. You might think this recent emphasis on living simply just cropped up out of nowhere. But living simply, living with less, or reducing our consumption is not new. It's an ancient wisdom that one can trace back in Western culture. The recent expressions of minimalism have their roots in 1960s communes, which go back to the work of simple living advocates such as Scott and Helen Nearing in the 1930s, and, in an earlier generation, Henry David Thoreau. One finds a call to simplicity movement at several key moments in history, issued by people as diverse as Blaise Pascal, St. Francis of Assisi, Augustine of Hippo, and the Desert Fathers and Mothers of 2nd century North Africa. The earliest parts of the Bible contain whole sections cautioning people of the dangers of excess. As Moses led the Hebrew slaves out of their 400-year bondage to slavery to the edge of the Promised Land, he issued a cautionary reminder. The land they were about to enter was rich indeed. The soil would produce, for them and their descendants, enough food to feed a small empire. That was precisely Moses' concern in his 30-chapter speech to the people as they prepared to enter the land of bounty. He is cautioning them on the temptation to become like Pharaoh's culture, namely a culture of acquisition. A contemporary translation of Moses' speech in the early chapters of Deuteronomy might read, "Beware of what lies before you. Do not forget your origins. This land you are entering will make you rich beyond your wildest dreams. The temptation to create a system built around getting more will be great. If you think of this land as a possession of yours and not as the gift from the one who freed you from slavery, you will become like Pharaoh. The result will be an insatiable appetite, and you will never be satisfied. You will always want more. Beware. His speech before reminding them of the covenant begins as follows. Moses called all Israel together. He said to them, "Attention, Israel! Listen obediently to the rules and regulations I am delivering to your listening ears today. Learn them, live them. God, our God, made a covenant with us at Horeb. God didn't just make this covenant with our parents, He made it also with us, with all of us who are alive right now." Deuteronomy 5:1-3, the Message. The key line is He, God, made it also with us, with all of us who are alive right now. That's a warning to the people about to enter the Promised Land, and it's also meant for us right now in the 21st century. The caution to live within one's means, be that a family budget or a green planet, is pervasive in the history of humanity. Jesus addressed the burdensome nature of wealth in its various forms. His parables regularly discuss matters of injustice, the cancer of greed approach to life, and the futility of storing it all up while others are poor, hungry, and deprived. He praises the generosity of a simple widow and rebukes his disciples for seeking their status and power. Jesus understood the power of less. He knew the power of simplicity as a tool to free people from the trap of excess. The weight can be a burdensome task for us to bear. This chapter could have been titled, "Why Getting a Dumpster is an Act of Everyday Spirituality." Roughly every 7 years, I order a dumpster, or hold a yard sale, or purge household items. I don't fully understand it, but my reaction following this activity is always the same: complete and utter satisfaction. It's as if I've unburdened myself. Yumiko describes it well. If you don't want to throw it away, then recycle it, give it to someone, or drop it in one of those charity bins. You know you've got too much stuff. I've got too much stuff. All this clutter is a symbol of our soul, and we've just got to reduce the clutter. I'm guessing if you've read this far, you might be nodding your head. While we all have hopes of a content, or even better than content, lifestyle, most middle-class Americans recognize that one more sofa is not going to address the deep hunger we have in our souls. A widely cited study conducted in 2010 by economist Angus Deaton and psychologist Daniel Kahneman suggests that once a household reaches an annual income of $75,000, more income has little impact on happiness. In other words, more has its limits. Yes, earning more money can improve your life dramatically if you are making $30,000 or $50,000 per year, but after $75,000 per year, contentment is less about money and more about something greater. We've already highlighted some of the key contributors to one's contentment, such as friends and experiences. Is it possible that some of our stuff and some of our activities need to be reduced? There is a long tradition in American culture of questioning the excess of our society. The more we get, the more some of us wonder if it's all worthwhile. In 1845, Henry David Thoreau made the trek from Boston to Walden Pond, which was then in the countryside. He wanted to experiment with simplicity. In July 1845, he began building a small cabin in the woods. His now famous "While Men Lead Lives of Quiet Desperation" emerged from this time. The sentiment is one of living modestly in a time when others live in the hectic chaos of acquisition. Is there a desire to live with less? Maybe reduce the clutter around the house or the clutter in your calendar? Do we need all those items in our garage, basement, or closets? Over the past year, I decided to find out how often I wear some of my clothes. Using a system of turning the coat hangers around, I discovered that I had not worn some of my shirts and slacks for a whole year. Why do I keep them? Let's minimize. Many people complain that not having enough time is the primary constraint on a more meaningful life. In the introduction to this book, I highlighted how frequently respondents agreed with the following statement. Although my faith is important to me, I feel there are other things more pressing in my life right now. How can we let some things go to find time for the things we truly value? While writing this book, I asked myself the same question when I realized that I needed more time to complete this project. As I examined my life, I realized how much time I was spending on social media, particularly the unholy trinity of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. These can be great tools for communication, but I knew that on multiple occasions they had become major distractions. Earlier this year, Apple updated its software to include a weekly report on your phone usage. My results were frightening. I was spending nearly 4 hours per day on my phone, on podcasts, and on social media. As the season of Lent approached, I decided to take a leave of absence from social media. It was my Lenten social media fast. While I continued to use the internet to communicate via email and write my blog, I abstained from the likes, the hearts, and the comments for 6 weeks. Not trusting myself, I needed support. I deleted all the apps from my phone, the links from my browser, and asked a friend to change the passwords. Now I was locked out. I gained nearly 3 hours per day. I used my phone only for texting and phone calls. Oh, and the ever-important task of checking the weather. The forced exile gave me time and attention to devote to this book, and it forced me to lift my head from the screen and see the world. Perhaps most satisfying and surprising was the discovery that I cared less about getting attention and what people thought of me. I no longer measured my value by the number of responses, likes, and comments on my posts. I returned to the status of a person who does his work for the sake of doing the job and the satisfaction it alone entails. I believe I did better work, listened more carefully to people, and focused my attention on things that matter, such as experiences and people. Reduce is a spiritual value worth exploring. The benefits that accrue to those around us and to the planet are expressions of everyday spirituality. Some questions to ponder. What are some ways you could live with less? What's one thing you are going to use till you wear it out? Is your basement or garage due for a garage sale? Is there some form of technology robbing you of time? What's one area of your life you'd like to simplify? If you found the time, what would you do?